are listening to episode 151 of the Tennis Files podcast. Unleash your tennis potential with elite tennis coach Emma Doyle. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. My name is Mirabana Ranchad, a former Division I college tennis player. And on the show, I interview the world's top coaches, pros, and experts to help you improve your tennis game. And today I have a really cool interview with Coach Emma Doyle. And she is a speaker, coach, expert communicator, and mentor who has helped many professional and amateur tennis players reach their true tennis potential. And that's why I brought Emma on the show today to talk to you about how you also can reach your goals and ultimately get to where you want to be in your tennis career. And we actually did yet another really fun live podcast where we recorded an interview with Emma live and also included many I should say, questions from the audience, which is always really fun to answer those in real time. And Emma is also a Tennis Australia high performance coach, and she just traveled the world as a professional speaker. She's actually had a TEDx talk, which is really amazing. I'd love to do that someday, hopefully. And like I said, she just specializes in helping people to maximize and live their true potential through tennis. And Emma has also been on all 4 of my tennis summits, which shows you how good she is and how quality, of a content that she provides when she puts out content. So, I think you're really going to enjoy this one, and we're going to include, or we do include a lot of great topics in here, including mindset, court confidence, communicating properly with your partners. Just a lot of really fun and really great subjects that I think will really have a great impact for you. Try to, ask some questions where I can try to put myself in your shoes, which I pretty much am in your shoes because I'm just like you, trying to improve my tennis game, one day at a time, pretty much. So, I really hope you enjoy this one. And, as I said, this was a live interview. Sorry, this was recorded live. It translates very well to audio format, of course. And so I think you'll really enjoy it. And I hope you do enjoy it, or whether you are tuning in for the second time, maybe you were actually a part of that stream, or for the first time. Either way, I will now shift over straight to the interview with Emma. So without further ado, here is the interview. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. I apologize for the small delay. It was on my end. My computer decided to crash, so that's really great timing there. But I want to welcome Emma Doyle to the Tennis Files podcast. It's really a pleasure to have her on. She has done a lot of great work and continues to do great work in the tennis world. And I've had her on my tennis summits actually all 4 years, which speaks to, just the quality of, I don't bring everybody back, each year, but Emma's one of the ones that I have. So Emma, how are you doing? Really great to see you.
Thank you so much. Great to be on the show. And I'm doing pretty good considering everything that's going on in the world right now. So feeling great.
Yeah, good to hear that. And and for those of you who don't know about Emma, I mean, she, like I said, she does a lot. She speaks around the world. She coaches. She has coached, professional tennis players, and you've probably even seen her, on court doing some on-court coaching, which is pretty cool. She's a Tennis Australia high performance coach. And so we're going to talk about a lot of great things on the show today. Mainly, the overarching theme here is how to unleash your tennis potential here. And we'll dive into a lot of subtopics and also take your questions as well. But Emma, I just want to ask you first off, I'm curious about, I know that you're actually here right now, but as far as like in Australia, tennis and everything, like how has that been going as far as like obviously dealing with the pandemic? Like, have they been opening up tennis courts and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. They're taking a conservative approach to reopening courts and clubs and so forth. But from all accounts, from contacts and friends I have over there, they're back out on court. They're doing everything. It's the new normal with masks through to stations, through to distancing kids and smaller lesson sizes, a lot more private, semi-privates. But Australia, we have a much smaller population, and I still spend, every Australian Open, well, hopefully if that continues to be on next year, but I always spend 3 months of the year back in Melbourne, in my hometown, and, all my colleagues back there are just itching to get back out on court. And so I think that's happened pretty much over the last sort of 2 weeks. But very conservative approach, and obviously hardly any cases compared to here in the States. So they are still being very cautious, so that there's not a second wave. But who knows? Time will tell.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And so I asked this to a couple of my guests the past couple of weeks, but I'm curious about how your students and those around your tennis community are attempting to improve their games despite what's going on. So I'm curious to hear what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I think the new normal is 100% home practice. So I think that's, if there's been a silver lining, it's definitely been that. For me personally, one of the things that I've just done is totally flip the model in relation to the online education, and just providing, there's so many things we can do at home. And obviously, mindset is a huge part of what I do. And being able to give visualizations and just home sort of prehab type stuff people can be doing for shoulder and recovery. And I think that now, I think is what the biggest thing that I'm seeing in the players is people embracing this. And I think it will just now become part of their routine, and integrate that into their programs. So I think that's one thing that I'm seeing a huge change in, and I've had to sort of reinvent the wheel as well there for in my own career. So
awesome, Emma, awesome. And you mentioned prehab. I'm curious to dive into that just a little bit. What is the concept of prehab, and then what does that entail?
Yeah. So one thing that I've done since quarantine's hit, for example, we started the M&M show with Michelle Krause and I. I rang her up one day and I just said, "Listen, Michelle, I'm in the trenches. I'm struggling with my energy, and people always say I have got great energy." So I rang the other person in America that has great energy, and the two of us started this M&M show, and I said, let's give them something people can do at home that's going to help their tennis, let's help their game, and let's give them a holistic approach. So let's give a physicality with a related mindset, and then we do a silly magnitude question just for fun at the end. And so, for example, a lot of the stuff that Michelle's been giving from prehab perspective, a lot of rotator cuff. We spend so much time on court with our shoulders coming forward that just retracting the scapula and just really opening back up is really important. So being able to pull the hands back this way and just be able to open up the shoulder blades this way is something that she's certainly been working on, and that a lot of that stuff we've been doing around core, and we've always had, obviously, then the mindset theme with the core was care. So self-care, family care, friendship care. So just giving a little quick mindset tip each day is something that we've certainly been doing, and that certainly relates, obviously, to prehab, so that we're taking care of our body off court so that we can be the best version of ourselves on court.
Very cool, very cool. And you mentioned mindset tips. I was wondering if you could maybe talk about one mindset tip that you've given your students recently.
I'd say one thing that's consistent throughout all of my work, when I, even if it's a brand new player that I'm working with, is a mindset tip called anchoring and affirmations. As we know, being able to get in state right before you play the point is critical. So making sure that you're trusting your gut, you trust your instincts, and you're ready to play the point, not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, being in the present moment. And anchoring is something that you do right before your ritual. And for example, could be anything from pressing the dampener on the racket with your thumb. It could be putting your thumb, your index finger, your middle finger together. And that's an anchor. Could be an earring, could be a necklace, could be a wrist, or could be your watch. It's very specific. And if you can put into those feelings of when you play your best tennis into those anchors, and then follow it up with an affirmation. So not "I am awesome," because that tends to be obviously we want to be in state. We don't want to be, dump a double fault in the net and think, "Oh, I am awesome." It's not possible. But just "I am ready." I'm here. One girl I work with, she's about 250 now. Her one is "I'm here and now." So when she just puts the fingers behind the top layer of string, I can do it. As long as it's not, a lot of people too, when they talk to themselves on court, it's like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. It's so much more empowering. Just, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. So anchoring and affirmations is by far one of the most popular mindset little tips that then we embed a visualization in with that as well. And that's probably something that I've been doing a lot of recently with players.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. But, for somebody who, maybe you can say that they might have a weaker mindset and they seem to not really play well when it matters and all that. Like, what is the first step that you actually, that you would suggest that they take in order to start on the journey of becoming a more confident and more successful person?
Yeah. So self-awareness is always number one. So you have to be self-aware of what you're actually doing. And obviously you have to have a want to improve that. So just bringing it to your self-awareness by whether that be videotaping yourself to look at. Some people don't even know that they're getting in their own way of their own issues. So, for example, one player that I worked with, we only videotaped them in between points. So we didn't have any footage of them hitting the ball. And they actually had no idea that they walk basically across the baseline like this, shoulders down, head down, so slumping forward. So that was great visual feedback for them to go, hey, I really want to make a change around that. So obviously self-awareness is number one. And number two is literally so much of what we do in tennis, as we know, is in between points. We've got all this time in between points and on the changeover, which I know that on your tennis files, I've done a number of presentations on what people could be thinking about, because that's step two. Self-awareness is number one, that you want to make the change. Number two is actually practical strategies. And I'm huge into individualizing those strategies to suit your personality. So that you can embrace the pressure, you can embrace the battle of competition, and then you can put in place a strategy that's specific to you and your personality to be able to, almost occupy the conscious mind with what we need to be doing better rather than what we're always doing wrong, or, how we keep the self-fulfilling prophecy going of self-sabotaging our own success and helping them be in the moment. So it is a little bit individualized, of course, but especially what they do between, like that in-between phase is absolutely critical to making change.
Mm-hmm. Awesome stuff, Emma. And what's the importance of determining your personality, and how do you go about even doing that?
I think, there's so many different great tools out there that you can use free online. I mean, Myers-Briggs, I think, is one of my favorites. If you don't want to take a real deep dive, just jump. I've got a YouTube clip that does your personality match your game style, and it was with Tennis Congress. So just jump on YouTube, just Google my name and personality playing styles. And I just provide the four quadrants: the crowd pleaser, the aggressive baseliner, the all-court player, and the consistent player. And really, I'm talking about personality, and so that you can often how you can communicate with your doubles partner better. But if you're a coach listening, obviously you'd be like, oh, okay, I've got a student who's more like that. I've got a student who's more like that. And same with a parent, just being able to have a better self-awareness of how to communicate with your child. So for me, it's really more about communication. So having a deeper awareness of what's going to help you bring out the best in you. So quick example, for if I'm an all-court player, which is the deep thinker, as personality, then before the match, I'm probably going to want to be by myself, away from distractions, not really surrounded, having a chat, like catching up with a friend right before I'm about to play. Visualizations would be very useful, and game, because I'm a deep thinker, I want to have my structured game plan already in place before I walk out on the court. So that's an example of, how you can just take care of those little things, depending on your personality style, to bring out the best in yourself. And, the opposite, the crowd pleaser, is going to want to be listening to really beaty music and maybe be around a crowd and really get the energy up, get the heart rate up, and, a bit of a show pony, even just doing some racket skills on the side of the racket, the top of the racket, the butt cap of the racket, playing, being playful with their personality is right before a match is going to help them.
Wow, deep insights there. Appreciate that. So maybe Curious would be the showstopper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've got like even though Sharapova's retired, she's that great aggressive baseline personality. So singular minded, completely focused, goal driven, bottom line answers. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm heading. You want to get to your match. You want to get the job done, and then you want to leave. So, there's obviously it all, and in terms of actually your game, the way you play tennis, in all the years I've been doing this personality stuff, which is since 2008 when I first designed it, it basically is about 70% of the time that your game style will somewhat reflect your personality. Not always. It's not a rule of thumb. It's not, if you're a flamboyant personality, but your game style is you just get every ball back. That's completely fine. Of course, it's not. You should change your game style at all. It's just how to bring the best out in yourself, pre-match, post-match, during match, and communication. So there are some of my thoughts on that.
Great stuff, Emma. Appreciate that. We've got a nice question here from JP. And shout out to everybody, by the way, Gene, Francis, JP, and everybody. Do you think one can play tennis to improve self-esteem, or is it better to have good self-esteem to compete well? What do you think?
So 100%. I believe that, tennis is a game that reflects life, and it can 100% improve your self-esteem. And for me, with regards to self-esteem, and with a number of clients that I work with, I describe it sort of layer by layer. It's if you think about the onion concept, you're just stretching yourself one layer at a time. And that might just be improving your first serve percentage. It might just be moving quicker around the court, or understanding the geometry of the court. Whatever it is, if you pick something quite specific, that can help build that extra layer. And then layer by layer is how you build your self-esteem, which of course equals confidence over time. So tennis is a game of life. It reveals character. So do many sports, but and that's one of my favorite things about tennis, because you're alone, you're exposed, and you don't often have a coach necessarily telling you what to do. A lot of other sports, can give you the plays. You've got to create your own plays. And I hope that we don't move too much towards on-court coaching. I mean, it is interesting, but I love the essence, the pure essence of tennis, which is, problem solving. It's a problem solving game, and you have to be able to solve the problems. So thanks, JP, for that question. Love it.
Yeah, it's an interesting time with regards to that, because I was just reading an article from about Patrick Mortiglow's UTS, which is going to have on-court coaching, you can use cards to even take away first serves and things like that. So
yeah,
no, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah. But
I like that as well. So I'm into that, especially for developing self-esteem, because the more we can put ourselves under pressure and build resilience and through creative activities like that. I know that Judy Murray and I have done many sort of workshops and things together, and we're always coming up with those sort of unique ways of how can we a layer in pressure, but have people experience and embrace it rather than, what do you mean I've only got one serve? I've got to serve with my left hand, or if I'm allowed to catch the ball, and, if I catch it, the ball's out no matter where the ball lands. I can only do it once a game. It builds so many great skills, especially for kids who are hopefully falling in love with this sport that we love.
For sure, Emma. Let's see. We got some comments, some questions. Higher level tennis, you can see which people have a bigger heart in the third set or final set. I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I do. I love the Spanish. I forget exactly what it is, but it's something like, first you break their technique, then you break them down tactically, then you break down their legs, and then you break down their heart. It's like soul, heart. It's like you just keep, pressing your thumb into the sore spots.
Yeah. Oh gosh, foam rolling. You're reminding me of the pain for that, but feels good though. It's kind of like that. If you work on it, press in there, then you'll improve. Good stuff. And we let's see, JP, thank you, because for some players, the lack of self-esteem seems to prevent them to play freely. Like they play too much for self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, ego in tennis is huge, isn't it? And, sometimes I think when that gets out of control, I mean, that's my biggest fear in tennis, like sometimes when we lose the essence of playing for the sport and we end up playing like I should beat this guy or girl, I've got a much bigger serve or something. A lot of players I've worked with, if they just lose their serve in the first game, that's it. That's the first set gone because of when the ego can take over. Whereas I love the concept of self-esteem. I love the concept of just building self-esteem to help you really embrace that battle of competition. And with a growth mindset, you lose the first game, you lose your serve. Doesn't mean anything except it's love won.
So we have a question from Karthik, who is asking, what could be breathing tempo to reduce anxiety on court during those cold feet moments during matches?
Fantastic. So breathing is something that's very, very important. If you can get on top of your breathing, then you can get on top of so many things that relate to helping you be able to play in state. So the biggest thing that you can do is when you breathe in, that actually increases your heart rate. So, and a long exhale actually can decrease your heart rate. So one of the things, so just a longer exhale alone, it can really help you. Connecting an affirmation with that. So breathe in confidence and breathe out doubt. So just a longer exhale before you do your ritual, just after you fire off your anchor and your affirmation is absolutely critical. If I do a lot of sort of mindfulness breathing visualizations for my clients, and with anxiety we do 4 seconds in, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we hold at the top, and then we go out for 7. So breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. So that's a great one for anxiety. And circular nostril breathing. So just closing one side, breathing in, and then closing the other side and breathing out. So there's so many great things you can do with breathing, but in the match, just a longer exhale, just, all right, that's a shorter one. Yeah. And then same, kids learn best through opposites, and adults, we're the same. So that short one, feel it, and then just really letting it go. And on the change of ends, just make sure you breathe into your belly. So diaphragmatic breathing. So expand the stomach and down. And if you just do that for 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out for 1 minute, you can reduce your heart rate. Which is a great thing to do on the change of ends if you're really feeling that tension. And then when you get up, remember the energy with tension is held in your feet. So 2 feet over the line, or you see the little Nadal movement when you're getting up off the change of ends, just pat, 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 just to get yourself up again after that relaxation breath. So many great things you can do with breathing. That could be another podcast just on breathing, but I really love it. I use it. I believe in it, and I use it. Before I did my TEDx talk in New York, breathing is what got me through. So I'm really huge believer in it and practice it.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking about that, about breathing, Karthik. I mean, I practice meditation every day, and that's obviously a part of it, and keeping track of your breath. So great question. So we have one from James, interesting one. Hopefully we can try to interpret it properly. He says, thank you. Can you please connect losses greater than point, game, set, match? Emma, do you kind of get that, or do you want me to try and follow up a bit on that, or ask James to?
I mean, my interpretation of that, I think, apologies if I've got it wrong, is just, I love the statistic, for example, that Rafael Nadal's won something like 98% of all his French Open matches, but he still lost like something crazy like 46% of all points. So losses, in tennis, you have to get really comfortable almost coming second, like losing every second or every third point, yet you could still win a lot of matches. So you could still have a high percentage of win, so I think tennis rewards bravery, not perfection. And so I think that's how I interpret that question. For me, losses and coming second, and that's why tennis exposes our character, because you have to get comfortable being able to say, all right, I lost that point, but perhaps, I set the point up well, or you have to try and connect with something so that then you still have an opportunity to be able to play the next point. And I'm a huge believer also in momentum, in playing to the score. So understanding for me the point, I'm not a huge, I don't necessarily, a lot of people say just play the same point all the same. Whereas I think, there's ways that with momentum, how to start, stop and steer it in your direction based on the score will really determine, how you structure your tactical objective for each point. So I probably gave 3 answers to a potential really cryptic question there, but hopefully I covered something for James.
Yeah, no, I love that answer, and also love to extract that quote that you said, that is, that tennis rewards bravery, not perfection. I mean, and when you said that, it made me think about tennis players who they feel like they're never ready to even play a tournament, but just simply because, oh, my game's not ready, it's not ready. And obviously there is some aspect of like, okay, if I'm working on a technique change, then okay, maybe I want to back off. But otherwise, many players, because of fear, they don't launch into improving their game through experiencing pressure, things like that. So that's a really good one that you mentioned there.
Yeah. The more people can put yourself in those pressure moments in practice and in a match, because all we ever want to do is transfer what we do in practice into a match. I've met a couple of people that always say they play better in matches compared to practice, but it's 95% the other way around, where people are like, I just wish I could play like I do in practice in a match. So I think, the more you can expose yourself to that. I mean, I certainly worked with a player once. We were developing a kick serve, and so during that period we still played, but he just served every serve underarm. He's like, I still want the rally of the points, but I don't want to serve, because every time I go into a match, my serve technique, I'm not, I'm losing it. So I just want to still compete. And that was his idea. I was like, wow, that's really resilient. What's not to like about that quality?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, and Jean, great. Yeah, she loves the quote. Let's see. Chris has a nice question here. Christopher. Suggestions/strategies for preventing unforced errors from escalating into a downward performance spiral during match play.
Mm-hmm. So unforced errors, really there's any number of reasons why they occur. So again, coming back to what I said earlier, self-awareness is number one. I'm a huge, I'm a big, what we call an indirect style of coach. So I'm huge on asking questions. So when an unforced error happens, first of all, great question is just, can you tell me, was it a technical error, tactical, physical, or a mindset? So just, sometimes, because as a coach, we might jump in the space and say, your loop was too big. And we'll go straight to technical because we see that. And maybe the loop was a little big, but they weren't even thinking about defending that ball. They were going for the Hollywood all the way just because, they were tired or because they couldn't be bothered or they'd already checked out mentally. So I think self-awareness, number one, is what the type of error it is. And not just looking at the last shot as well with unforced errors. Often as coaches, again, we always comment on that last shot, whereas so much potentially what happened in the bulk of the point. I always say there's 4 parts to a point: the start, the setup, the opportunity, and the finish. So let's look at all those 4 areas in where in the process did it break down. Perhaps it's my serve that then keeps putting me on the back foot. And so I'm getting frustrated with that, and then I make an unforced error. So self-awareness, looking at the 4 different parts, looking at the 4 different parts of a point, help you then be able to make change. And being able to make change, especially if you're in a match and you want quick change or in a match play, cue words. I'm a huge believer in cue words. So find what the source is of the problem and say to yourself, next time, let's say, for example, it was technical and it was on your serve, and you hit the ball in the net, toss it higher. So it toss higher. 2 keywords, toss higher. Next time, toss higher. Now there's a little subtlety there. If you want to stop the flow of unforced errors and stop thinking in the past, have a self-awareness of yes, what happened, but then give yourself a future-based command. And hopefully your coach will ask a great question with regards to you discovering the answer within yourself and pulling out a cue word that you relate to, whether it be a feeling word or a visual word or something that sounds good to you, and give yourself a future-based command by using these 2 words, which will be a game changer, I promise, next time. Next time. Because what that does is, rather than stop hitting it in the net or, why do you keep hitting to the guy's or girl's forehand? Just, hey, next time, high and heavy to the backhand, or next time, whatever it might be.
Awesome. Love that. And and we've got George with a question here, and also thanks for it's great seeing you in Maryland. Want to bring you to VA? I'm down. So it's related. How do you convince someone to forget about the last mistake and move on? You talked about it a little bit. But.
Yeah. No, love that question. But release strategies. So that's what I call them. And but again, remember their personality. That's where personality does come into it. So I'm actually a huge fan, George, of depending again. Let's say that my personality is the crowd pleaser type personality. For 3 seconds or 3 steps, let me be me. Like if that frustrated me. And I want to let some physical emotion or sound out, then let me do it. As long as it's straight away, like, I know I could make that shot or whatever it might be. And then a release strategy might be lifting up a rubber band on my wrist and then flicking my skin. And when it flicks my skin, I say the word stop. And that could be out loud if that's my personality, or it could just be more internal. And after I've said stop, then I have to become future-based thinker. I have to become a future-based thinker. If I get stuck in why I missed that ball or why do I keep missing that shot, then again, they'll ruminate and they won't be able to let it go. So the flick strategy is a good one. The butt cap, pushing the butt cap of the racket into the palm of the hand creates like a little stop sign on the hand. So, maybe if I'm more internal, then, you can berate yourself internally, like, you idiot, rah, rah, and push as hard as you can, and then let it go. And of course, the towel's another great release strategy. I'm a huge fan of individualizing it based on personality and based on what's going to work for each player. It's not one size fits all, but there's 3 examples of helping people then be able to stay in state. And you do also fire off your anchor and your affirmation twice in those scenarios. So, but George, can't wait to see you in Maryland. We nearly got our last clinic off the ground, but can't wait to see you again. So thanks for that question.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Emma. I'm curious too, obviously you've given a lot of amazing advice here. As far as your journey, in tennis, and then with respect to like the mental game, was there any sort of experience or reason that made you want to focus on like the mindset area?
Yeah, 100%. When I got out of tennis altogether, I thought I was going to have a career change. It was around 2007, and I'd been coaching on the tour for about 8 years, mainly in the junior space, and I was burnt out because I, as a coach, didn't have enough tools in my toolkit to be able to bring out the best in different types of players and personalities, and especially parents. I didn't know how to really relate and understand. I was pretty much a kinesthetic learner, and I taught that way, and I was extrovert, so that's just who I was. And you either accepted me or you didn't. And so then I was like, well, how come I take a team away? And I was like, yeah, it worked really well with those two, but I didn't really get that one, and I didn't. That one I couldn't really bring out the best in them. And of course, I was catapulted back into it after studying emotional intelligence and neuro-linguistic programming and life coaching, business coaching, and all these tools where I was like, oh, wow, I have to change who I am to be able to relate to different players. And I was like, oh, wow, yes, a coach can have standards and principles and philosophies, and that's the core of what they believe. However, as we know, when you put the player at the center of the learning, then you have to be able to understand them. You have to be able to see their map of the world and understand their motivations and why they're playing and what are their goals and what do they want. And when you totally absorb yourself in that, then you say, okay, well, maybe I need to whisper my message, or maybe I need to soften my approach, or maybe I need to sometimes give a direct command. But one thing I was huge in post that course was asking more questions and really believing that you as the student, the answer lives within you, but just how can I unlock that by creating a great activity or a great drill, or put you in a great pressurized situation to unlock that learning within yourself. So that's why when I was out of college, my degree, I played D1 college tennis at Middle Tennessee State University back in the 90s, and then got my degree, but majored in exercise science and exercise physiology. So I started out more as a fitness coach, and got a lot of opportunities at a high performance level because I was a tennis coach and I had the strength and conditioning background. Which I'm very grateful for. It helped me understand technique better in the early days. But now I certainly, most of my work, even when I'm on court, is so much around mindset.
Awesome. What is one, belief that you held regarding mindset that changed, once you went through that process of deep self-education?
Probably one of the things, well, I've sort of already alluded to it, I guess, but it was just the fact that I think as a coach, I had a lot of knowledge, and so almost every session I'd just want to give knowledge and just be direct and just, hey, you need to do, I've got the answer for you. You need to do this. And then, once I went through this transformation, and especially around language, because I felt that, language was just for me to give everything, like verbally, and just tell. And I think, verbal diarrhea would be a way to explain it if I can. And so the biggest change in myself was being able to, the power of the pause, know when to say, what. It's almost like one of my mentors once said to me, a beginning coach runs an activity, and an experienced coach lives an activity. The deep wisdom in knowing when to do what and why. Why are you doing it? I mean, Darren Cahill has, five qualities that make up a champion, like top 10 players in the world. And number 2 is purpose, which is the why. So great coaches, I think, understand the why. And players who really want to get better, they want to know the why. And of course, I'm into female empowerment. When girls don't really care what you know until they know that you care. All right. Maybe that's a paraphrase of someone famous. So they doesn't matter what your credentials are. If they understand the why, then they're going to be deeply dedicated towards, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or, or this is the why. Well, I think we should do this. And okay, great, let's go. So I think the coaching process is more collaborative. It's more holistic, and it's not one size fits all. And the mindset with regards to how we build up our inner coach and discover our inner coach as players, as coaches, as people on and off the court is the biggest difference between chapter 1 and chapter 2 of my coaching life.
Awesome. Yeah, that reminds me of a talk by, I think was it Simon Sinek, which is all about your whys as well, which is a great one. But we'll try to link to Darren Cahill's article there. And so you mentioned the second trait, obviously, but what was the number one on the list? Do you remember?
Yeah. I've got just have it next to my computer. So work ethic was 1, purpose was 2, belief was 3, resilience is 4, and team is 5.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for that. And with work ethic, so I mean, this is something that we all encounter it, but I encountered a lot. I mean, I grew up, very fortunate, but then also it makes you very comfortable, and then you want to choose like the easy route and all this. So with work ethic, how can we develop a stronger work ethic and really make the right choices, even despite how hard they are, so that we can actually make real progress?
Yeah. So my best, I guess, there's no easy answer, except, of course, because it's hard work, the concept that I mentioned earlier. I would still say that 80 to 90% of the clients that I work with, it's about just stretching one layer at a time. So if you want to, it's like you want to build work ethic, then just build it one drill at a time. It might just be, the old Harry Hotman, a 2-on-1. I mean, the greatest tennis drill ever that's been around forever. And it is hard work. When you've got 2 people volleying, you've got no time, your heart rate, you do that for 3 minutes with a goal of trying to make 10 unforced errors or less for an intermediate player, so to speak. And that is a really difficult activity. So maybe your threshold is you can only get through one of those. Then next time you do it, you give yourself a goal of getting through 2 of those. We're still trying to make less than 10 unforced errors, not forcing errors. So, that's just a real example of a lot of people, what they do with work ethic, they make the mistake of going from one extreme to the other. Now, that does work, again, for 10% of the population. They throw themselves out of the comfort zone and they do like a boot camp and, and they make that part of just who they are. But most people, when they try and implement something extreme, they're good at it for about a week and then it falls off. And as we know, it takes 21 days to form a habit. So, minimum we need to be slowly stretching ourselves over 3 weeks that we then get comfortable being uncomfortable. So that's what I would suggest. You set yourself just one little goal that's going to hurt, and then, okay, hey, you know what? I can do that. That wasn't too bad. Or, in my girl power camps, I say, right, balls up in under a minute. And then they get the balls up in under a minute. And I was like, right, I'm going to reward you with a 1-court suicide. And they're like looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, yeah, because the fitter you become, you're going to be harder to beat. And they do a 1-court suicide. If you do it from doubles line to doubles, to single to middle to single to double, that's about 17 seconds. Should take about around, for an athletic junior, right? It's not, there's no lactic acid build up in a 17-second suicide. And they're like, let's do it again. And I'm like, oh, yep. That's where I know we've got the AHA or the gold medal. Or so, but if I made them do a real lactate sort of a 3-court suicide, and because they didn't get the balls up in under a minute, and that's like a recipe for people to quit.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, there's even this story that I remember about somebody who they hated to floss. So then what somebody told them to do is say, all right, just set the goal of flossing 1 tooth. And, then, once you start flossing 1 tooth, you're like, oh, what the heck? I can do some more. And so you build that habit. So even though that's an extreme example, which apparently is actually true, it correlates with what you said. For sure.
I don't think it's an extreme example. I think it's a great example.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I'm doing at the moment, I'm running something called the Empowerment Project for Center Court 360 in New York. But it is open to everyone, actually, webinars, free webinars. Perhaps we can put the link in, or we'll organise that. But basically, last week was all about patterns and patterns of being. So it's up on YouTube if anyone wants to have a look at it. But essentially, what we did in that process is look at, the patterns will happen either through the senses. So it'll be something that you smell, or something you hear, or something somebody says, or something you see, and then all of a sudden you're down the rabbit hole with your patterns and with your routines. So if you can get to the trigger, like there'll be one trigger, then and identify that and replace it with an anchor. That was one of the strategies we covered last week in patterns and making patterns, changes, because the amount of sleep we get, what we do right before we go to bed, and what we do right when we wake up in the morning affects how you play tennis. No doubt about it.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, we'll definitely arrange to get that link in the show notes and so that you all can check it out, the webinar. Let's see, higher level tennis. I think you could use questions as well to help them focus on the next point. Ask them something to focus on the next point. For example, where has their opponent been serving to on the juice side? Is that, I like that. Is that a strategy that you like to use?
Absolutely. So it's question-based skills. It's memory recall. In tennis, you have to have memory recall. So being able to have them be aware of, hey, he every time his serve naturally slides out to my, on the juice side out to my forehand, and he does the same thing on the ad court, or she, sorry. And so basically with those two concepts in mind, then it's brought to their conscious awareness. So then the question and the best advice I would say was, okay, so next time, what are you going to do about it? Oh, I'm going to adjust my return to serve position. Rather than asking a pass-based question, he or she keeps getting you there, like, oh yeah, they do, like I'm not standing in the right position, and I'm not reading that early enough. I'm not moving at an angle out to the ball. I'm just going along. Like that's all accurate information, but there's three things there that I just said is going to weigh me down. That's going to push me into negative thought processes. And I'm probably going to repeat, even though I'm aware of it, because of the way that I've languaged it and my physiology, how that affects my body, I'm probably going to keep doing the same mistake. Whereas if I say, hey, next time I'm going to cut off the angle, next time I'm going to shift my hips around on the juice court, I'm going to put one foot in the tram lines or the alley here in America, and I'm going to be able to widen my base. There's four things already that are so much more empowering. My body's going to want to do it. I'm going to be connected to the why, because I want to make sure that never happens again. So yeah, really love it. High level tennis. Love your thinking. Love that question, and then go into future based thinking.
Love it. Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I appreciate that. It's awesome. Let's see, JP. Is it a bad idea to just realize that thinking about the last lost point will never help? Rational thinking and refocus on what is useful.
Is it a bad idea to just realize that thinking at the last point? So,
it's a good idea, right? Like, because
can you reframe the question for me?
Yeah, I think it seemed no worries. Yeah, I think it's basically saying, isn't it better to just realize that you should think that, okay, I lost the last point, but it's not going to help me, and then instead just think more rationally and then refocus on, okay, what is going to be useful.
Oh, okay, great. Get the question now. So 100%, like, even if we not that I want to get too much into neuroscience, because I'm not a neuroscientist, don't profess to be, but I do love sort of the concepts of the brain, the three layers, the neocortex, the limbic, and then, sort of that fight or flight right there. Now that's sort of called leveling. Now in tennis, you have, when we get too much into the limbic system, when we get too emotional, as we know, we tighten our grip, we our shoulders raise, and we're not able to just play. So the more you can think, because we have so much time between points as well, and stay in that neocortex sort of level, then essentially what we're doing is we're thinking about, like, analytically about hopefully in a match, more the tactical objective, right? We don't want to think too much about technique. Obviously, we need to think more about the strategy and the structure of your points. So in the between point routine, as soon as that point's over, I'm okay if you need to reflect on, or you need to pop into some emotion there. But the quicker that you can then reset into the thinking phase of what do you need to do better based on what happened, then come back to the present as quick as you can, and then get future-based. As you're fixing your strings, okay, so for example, you lost the last point because you keep playing to their strengths. Okay, so right, let it go. Now, what do I need to do better? I'm going to go high and heavy to the forehand first to pull this person out wide so I can open up their weakness. Okay, so I need to think in the neocortex. I need to think rationally, think logically, stay in that part of the brain. And then when I fire off my anchor, I don't want to be thinking about that anymore. My body knows what I need to do. So now I just want to play. Now I just want to trust my body. And the other thing around that may be a bit of a bonus tip here is it always amazes me when people call out the score. So often they'll call it out right before they're about to play the point. And they'll be on the baseline even, and they're 30-40 or,
Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can call the score just before you're thinking tactically, that's perfect to then help you be able to structure your point rationally, logically, analytically. So that's a good time to think about that. So maybe it was a long-winded answer, but hopefully, again, somewhere in the ballpark.
Yeah, no, very valuable. Appreciate that, Emma. Let's see. So George, good coaching question, I believe. What if you're not getting through to your player in a match or practice? What's next? How do you get through, or do you step back and allow them to figure it out or fail? Yep.
So all of those questions are the right answers. In terms of when to step back, when to say nothing, when to jump in the space, the better that you can get to know the different types of players, the more success that you will have. So remember, it's not one size fits all. And often as coaches, what we tend to do is we tend to coach, we can't help it sometimes, in line with our personality and in line with how we learnt and how we were taught. So being able to have self-awareness around, just because I learnt that way does not mean that my student's going to learn that way. And if you're giving a message in a certain way, and a lot of parents say this too, they go, I've told you 50 times that, you've got to have your racket up in the ready position, something as simple as that. And of course the player's still got their racket down or whatever it might be. So clearly that's not working. So first of all, think across the senses. So if you're giving a message auditorily, let's give it a go visually. If you're giving a message visually, it's not working, let's give it a go kinesthetically. Just give them an activity. If that's not working, try opposites. If you're trying to teach depth, then work on short and then depth, and then short and then depth. And if that's not working, try a really strong process of pros and cons. So a data digital learner is going to need the whole list. Here's the benefits of changing your grip to continental semi-western. If you're coaching a more advanced female player, she might want to move that grip around. Like here are all the pros, here are all the cons of this grip change. If that doesn't work, yes, jump out of the space. Some people have the biggest aha moment when they come back to training the next day. So here we are as a coach giving, but the aha moment happens that night. Oh, now I get that activity. And then so coach across a multitudinal level way. A huge fan of having whiteboards on the court. I mean, I don't know why as coaches we don't have more aids, on the court. Like in my ideal world, I don't know, when I retire, I visualize an indoor court that has a mirror and all my on-court, off-court kinesthetic learning pieces of equipment. Huge believer in that. And just keep try this, try that, try this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Emma.
Thanks, George.
Yeah, thanks, George. Well, so we got some more questions here. So I think, Ben, we reviewed the 5 top factors earlier, I believe. So we can, you can always rewind if you'd like. Ben, again, can we review an example or two of setting an anchor?
Yeah, sure. So with anchoring, the first thing that you want to do is have a self-awareness around the best match that you've ever played. So think back. Actually, let's do it. Ready? Let's go, Marin. You're going to be my student.
Right.
I want you just to take a deep breath in, nice long exhale. And, you can do this eyes open, eyes closed, up to you. But I just want you to just transport yourself back to one of your best matches. So just take a moment just to visualize your surroundings, the sound of the ball perhaps, and just an associated feeling that you had on that day. And now just opening your eyes and just coming back into the room. And I'm hoping you did think of something. Did you?
I did.
Yeah, okay, great. Obviously, that was very quick. Very quick example. I knew that you already had, we planned this before the show. No, we didn't. Just tell me a little bit about the day and the match.
Yeah, so it was actually a college tennis match at Boston University, and I was playing obviously against an opponent. And as far as my what I felt, actually the surroundings were I had my teammates watching and cheering, and then as far as my feelings, I felt really high energy and excitement, and just great focus on the court, and those were kind of the overall thoughts there.
Great. Now, is there something that, because you've been playing for a while, is there something that you already do that you touch? Is it, a hat, or is it something that you connect with on your racket? Not fixing your strings. It can be a specific string. It could be the side string, the top string, the bottom string, the throat of the racket, the dampener. Is there something that you already connect with that you wear, or anything?
Well, I guess I don't know if this answers the question, but I just like the feeling of holding the throat of the racket when I'm returning, things like that, or flipping the racket around sometimes.
Great. So what I would suggest then is potentially using your left, because you're right-handed, aren't you? Yeah. Your left index finger in the throat, so just hooking it in the throat of the racket, and then connecting an affirmation with that. So that's one I would maybe suggest for you, just based on what you said. But again, obviously anchoring is totally up to you. So again, it could be an earring, a part of the hat. So a girl I'm working with at the moment uses the four fingers and the thumb on the right side of the hat. Another girl I'm working with at the moment has her index finger and her thumb just on her watch. The dampener is a big one, pressing on the dampener, and then connecting an affirmation with that. So some examples include: I belong here, I believe in me, I am ready, I love competing, I'm here and now. So something that keeps me in the present, something that gets me ready for the battle, to embrace the battle of competition. And with some of the words that you used, you were drawing off that energy, off that excitement. I am energy. So that's going to, right, every point, doesn't matter what happened last point, I am energy. And then obviously something that resonates with you, and then give that a go for 6 months. And then after 6 months, see how it felt, and then maybe have a shift. But give it a go for a minimum, sort of a longer time frame, because it's not meant to say I'm going to win the point. That's not the purpose of the anchor. The purpose of the anchor is to get you in state to be able to give yourself every opportunity of being able to play well. So did any of those resonate with you?
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, I'm probably gonna try the finger on the hooked on the throat and saying, trying to think what I would say. I am energy, perhaps, would be a good one. Yeah, I like that. That's really good.
Yep, and yep, go ahead.
Sorry, and then just to go back to choosing. So as far as what to choose, you just try to think back to that time where you were successful, and then try to think of what part of the racket or something that you were connected with on that day. Was that? Yeah.
So, well, the idea is when you're thinking back to that moment, that was a state that you had on that day. And then what you're doing, you're anchoring that state into the racket. So it's not, I didn't pick the racket because of that day. I picked the racket because you said that's something you normally do. So, rather than reinventing the wheel, having you do something completely foreign, if you naturally have a tendency to do that, all I'm saying is that you then anchor through visualization that match to the throat. So with one of my online courses, for example, it's called Master Your Mindset. So what we do, there's at least 10 visualizations on how to beat different game styles. And in every single one of them, during the visualization, which only goes for around 6 to 8 minutes, you anchor, you fire off your anchor in the visualization. So it's either you imagining yourself playing an all-court player or a pusher or a counter-puncher or whatever it might be. And then the very first visualization is you anchoring in those positive feelings connected to a match where you played really well. So that's how you develop the anchor, and then you just give it a go. And usually, like I said, I have the most success with that mindset tip across, all the players that I work with. That's one that I use myself. I do head, heart, and gut, 3 fingers. I could do it. When I play now, mainly golf tournaments, and when I'm about to do a big presentation. I'm firing off that anchor. If I've got a conflict conversation, I'm firing off my anchor. I'm getting myself in state to be able to embrace whatever's going to come at me or whatever the lessons I need to learn. So it's something you can use on and off the court. That's a life skill that is, it's been a game changer for me. And I know it has for a lot of my clients. That, as I said, use it before, especially, student athletes, use it before exams. So that's why, sometimes we don't always anchor it into the racket. So, depending on what it is that they want to use. But yeah, explore, experiment. And then when you choose one, try and do it with a visualization is connect that anchor with that, or just close your eyes and imagine yourself playing well. You get your racket and you anchor it in 3 times.
Ooh, love it. Love it. Yeah. And we got some great comments here. Karthik said, "Phew, Emma's on fire. That's heavy. Love it." And we got Gail who said, "So interesting. Awesome." Yeah, Emma, I realized I should have asked you, if you had an appointment at 1, but I don't know. We can get through a few questions. Oh, you're good. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. We got a bunch of questions. So Andrew, which do you believe is more important? Having the physical preparation to complement your mental performance, or your mental outlook to complement your physical performance? Nice one.
Great question. And I would say it depends on your personality. Some people need the mindset to then be able to work on their physicality, to be able in a match to be able to play well. And some people need, the more physically fit they get, the more their mindset just says, I'm so tough to beat that my mindset has to be bulletproof, that was a terrible expression, sorry, has to be, solid. So it depends on culture, depends on your upbringing, depends on what you value. And I don't think it's necessarily one size fits all. But again, based on my 4 personality profiles, I can kind of have an indication of what's going to be more important to what type of personality. So that's why that comes into it, the way people are raised, what they value. And so I think that's, especially like the crowd pleaser who doesn't necessarily want to do the hard work. So, they're going to need that stimulation, that gamification, that competitive physicality before that they're going to really work on their fitness. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, great answer. I mean, that really made me think too, because whenever I feel like I'm not fit, I know that I'm in trouble. I'm screwed, especially when you're playing tough players. So
but it doesn't need to be, because as we know, it's not the fittest person who wins.
Right. Sure.
So when it's all said and done, there's ways that you can, even when when do we ever go on court feeling 100% fit?
Right.
We've always got even the top players, we always have a niggle, or we always have, oh God, I'm stiff, or I'm sore, or, if I'm late in the tournament, my body's going to be sore. And so being able to more have strategies to say, okay, well, I made it to the quarters, so has the other person. So they're physically potentially as sore as what I am. it's being able to put strategies in place to help you, be able to give yourself every chance of playing your best. So thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Let's see. Oh, JP, more maybe a comment, but hard to have that rational thinking with anger for sure. But after a few breaths, I think it's possible and becomes a habit. So yeah, definitely
agree.
Samantha, and thanks for that. Samantha, how can one manage to play at their opponent's slower pace and not get frustrated by this?
Yep, great question. So, one thing that you need to do, and it's not always possible, but if you know beforehand that you're going to play someone that you played before that plays at a slower pace, then there's a number of things that you need to do before the match to get ready for that. It may be just embracing, hey, today's going to be a long day, and I'm okay with that. I'm prepared to stay out on the court as long as it takes. I realize that my match might be the last one on, and I'm okay with that. I accept it. I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever this person throws at me. So that would be just maybe the pre-match work that needs to be done. And then during the match, if you have your own routine and that this person is playing slow, so let's say you didn't know them prior, but you're feeling like they take forever in their routine, then just if you continue to do your routine, maybe you just do it twice. So, you think tactically, you get pass the balls back, then you fire off your anchor and your affirmation, and instead of going into your ritual, and then a lot of people, they get into their return to serve ritual and they're waiting, and then they're like, oh my God, this person, this means somebody, please don't get into your ritual until they're ready. So what you may need to do is step back away from the baseline, continue, just go over the plan one more time, fire off your anchor and your affirmation again, and then get into your ritual. So just if you've got your set ritual, for example, I usually start with the word SARS, so turn, strings, anchor, affirmation, ritual. So even if you just take those 4 steps and then make them your own, so, again, you might be a bit quirky in how you do that, and in line with your personality, again, there's a theme here, then you can't go wrong, because remember, your neocortex, or your cognitive piece of your brain, is doing so much thinking about what you need to do that the energy's on you, that you're not going to get caught up in how much they annoy you, because everyone will annoy you on a tennis court at some point or another. So accept it, embrace it. There's all creatures, great and small, out there. I mean, in my 30 years, I've seen a lot of different things, and the more you can occupy your mind with what you need to do in your routine, and the more structured that is, the better. The 4 steps, just double up or do them again. So love that question. Thank you, Samantha.
Brilliant. Appreciate that, Emma, as well. A strategy question. Phil, what can you do? And you did a great double session actually on the summit last year, I believe. What can you do when you start to poach on a poachable ball and then realize that you can't hit a winner?
So great question. Thanks, Phil. So I would first of all say that obviously point can end in a winner. It can end in a forcing error or an unforced error by either person. So I love forcing errors. I think it's the more, especially amateur players, can focus on increasing the number of forcing errors. We touched on it a bit earlier. It hurts people's ego a little bit. So imagine you're going over to poach and then you realize maybe the ball's slightly lower than the height of the net, or you realize that somebody's in that position. Then imagine being able to stick the volley still into the smartest tactical spot. So I always say into the biggest, fattest, juiciest, chunkiest piece of the court, right, between the two players. Even if a player's there, imagine them getting a racket on it but not being able to control it. That's better than a winner. And if you're going over to poach, and the other example is the ball's lower than the height of the net, then going back behind, like the short angle back behind, even if that person's able to run up and get a racket on it but can't control it, greatest thing that can happen in the game. So it's totally cool not to hit 20 winners in a match. You imagine having like even 15 forcing errors in a match. I mean, what an awesome statistic And, I used to just have, from a very young age, my mum used to, when she'd come and watch me play, she didn't really get tennis. So she'd just sit there and just it was either a winner, an unforced error, or a forcing error. And, on my matches, and I remember thinking from when I was really young, how can I get that forcing error up back then? So, so that way you bring your margins in, you're not aiming for the line. You're not, even down the line. I last Fed Cup sort of junior camp that I ran, we eradicated the word down the line. We just called it a change ball. Because, the minute you think down the line, you try to thread the needle down the line, and it becomes such a harder shot. We were just like, it's cross or it's change. It's cross or it's change. Mm-hmm. So, even that simple language change can then, really build in more forcing errors. So, but keep poaching, keep doing it. And remember, if you don't get sidelined once a game, you're not doing your job.
That's right. That's right. No, I really like that language change there. Very, very smart. Let's see. Gene said thank you. Great ideas here. Appreciate that, Gene. James, can you talk about a possible dichotomy, winning and having fun on the tennis court for recreational players? I guess, how do you do both?
Yeah.
Improvement, maybe? Seeking improvement? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I come probably a little bit more from the philosophy of even martial arts. So one of my biggest mentors, he was the Australian and then the Singapore national kendo coach, which is that Japanese sword fighting with the big bamboo sticks. And when I first met him when I was 18, and he said, I went to watch him compete in like a national championships. And at the end of the match, there was so much respect for the opponent. It was almost like he introduced me to the concept of thank you for making me a better player, right? This like the better that you play, the better I play. Now, I certainly grew up as a junior thinking, on a big point, please double fault. I really, really want this point. And I still sometimes do that if I'm watching a match. But if you're playing a match and you want to enjoy and you want to win, then the best thing that you can do is not focus on winning. This is 90% of the population of the players that I work with, and focus on, come on, big point, give me your best second serve because, my return's going to get better. And, sort of like saying like, bring on the battle, like put yourself under pressure in practice and just build that resilience muscle and get over yourself as quick as you can and get over your ego as quick as you can in tennis. And I mean, you need an ego, of course, to be able to play well as well. So that's the tipping point and the fine balance between the two. But if the more you can embrace the battle, the more you're going to enjoy it. The more you can just let go of the win. I know you still want to win for sure, but park that the minute you get on the court. So have all your energy going, hey, you know what? Yep, I really want to win this weekend. Or, I'm sure many people would have watched The Last Dance, Michael Jordan. I mean, he's a freak, right? So he can go, yeah, it's all about winning and I'm going to win and let's step up on the court and win. Now, with my 4 profiles, the aggressive baseliner can think like that. They can think win, win, win and enjoy it and, or not enjoy it if they don't win as well. So, but 90% of the people I work with, it's all about embrace that battle, love that competition, invite your opponent to play their best. I dare you to bring out your A game against me today, and then accept the challenge, and then go about letting the result take care of itself. One of the hardest things to do, but guess what? Anchoring and affirmation helps you do that. Helps you get in state to be able to play the point.
Love it. Appreciate that, Emma. Let's see, JP. I'd say that fun and competition should be seeked in the pleasure of solving problems. That's definitely a great way to look at it. Yep, for sure. Linda, great work, Emma. Always love seeing you living your dream.
Oh, Linda Leclerc. She's awesome.
I love that. Such a nice comment. Andrew, what tip would you give for a player not to play down to the level of a weaker player?
Great question. So, a lot of people say, I'm just going to play my game. I'm just going to go out there and just play my game. And I was listening to a webinar recently with Andrescu's coach, and he was talking about that's all good and well to just go out and play your game. However, there is an opponent in tennis. You can't play tennis by yourself. So being able to accept the biggest thing, again, I see is that people, let's say they take a game style that they don't like a pusher or a kid. I prefer to, I'd never say pusher unless it was an opponent, right? So I would say it's a consistent baseliner or it's a counter puncher. That's a great game style. So being able to, because they're often the hardest to beat, the people that just get every single ball back and I'm so much better than this player. And so there's all these stories that we tell ourselves about, I should beat this player, he or she, they beat this person, I always beat them, so I should beat this player. And so therefore they're weaker. So again, weakness, everyone has a weakness, usually, even at the highest level. There is a weakness, whether it be a mindset, physicality, technical, tactical. And so for me, the problem-solving element of being able to break down that weakness is the most exciting factor. So first of all, get rid of the comment, all this story that you had before the match, that I'm this and I'm that and they're weaker than me and I should beat them and, they're at whatever number and I'm this number. So let go of that, because they, a 4.0 can have a day out and beat, a 5.0 player. It happens all the time. So one thing is accept the person, and then if you want to continue to not go down their level, you have to have a very structured game plan. I think on Tennis Files, I gave the example of A, B, C. So yes, you can have your best game plan in game plan A and one thing on how to beat their style of game plan. Now that's not working. You've got to have two tactics under game plan B, and then you've got to have your game plan C, which is what are you going to do to stay out on the court as long as you possibly can, 1 minute longer than your opponent. So if you stay, again, like we said, in the neocortex part of the brain, the rational thinking, the logical game plan, and not get caught up in this person's weaker than me and all the story that we tell ourselves, that is really critical to how we can bring out the best in ourselves, accept our opponent for whoever they are, whatever their circumstance is, and just get on with it, and play 1 point at a time, because, plenty of times weaker players have beaten better players. It happens time and time again. So have a structured game plan and fire off your anchor and your affirmation. That's the short version of the long version that I just gave.
Short version. Awesome. Let's see. All right, Samantha, thanks. Very true, for sure. And just like you were talking about pretty much with the pushers, you don't want to call them that, but dealing with those players who seem to be able to hit every ball back like the Energizer Bunny, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so it accepts that that's who they are. And you number one, you have to be prepared to have a day out, like a resilience day out. Like, this is going to push you. You've almost got to leave your, can I say, shit at the door. So, even let's say that morning maybe potentially if this is, I don't know if Samantha has kids, she may or may not, but let's say you've dropped the kids at school and you've done all the homeschooling and you've cooked this and you've done that and you've, or it doesn't matter if it's male or female. So there you go. Whoever it is may have done all those things as well, by the way. I'm into gender equality, of course. Sure. And so what I'm saying is often you're already exhausted mentally when you get to the court. And then you think, I've got to play that person. Oh my God, I've got to play, I know who I've got to play. They get every single ball back. This is going to be like a 3-hour day. So all those stories you tell yourself, you need to flip them and reframe them straight away into saying, hey, you know what? I'm ready for a really long day. I'm ready. Before I get my short ball opportunity, I may have to hit 10 balls back cross court as well. I may need to take my chances, and take the ball on the rise. Just remember, the Energizer Bunny loves to live on the baseline. That's their little home. They're so comfortable there. So depending on your game style, look at change of spin, look at shape of shot. How do you remove them out of their comfort zone? Take their best strategy away from them, if you can do that. If you like to drop shot, if you like moving forward, or that higher, heavier ball, take them back. If you like to take the ball out of the air, of course, it's a higher risk, but it's certainly an effective strategy so that they're not being able to get in their groove and just be able to, to dictate the whole time. But if they do dictate a couple of points, like anything, just accept it, just let it go. That's part of your day, and you're ready. No matter what, the kitchen sink's thrown at you, you're ready, because you leave your stuff at the door. You can pick it up on your way back out if you want, but use your anchoring to be able to say, right, my morning was whatever my morning was, and I'm now just going to let that go.
Love it. Appreciate that, Emma. JP, I'm French. What does poaching mean? Just moving to the other side of the court, pretty much. That's what that means, especially
Steel volley.
Yeah, especially when you think about it in doubles terms. So Emma, brilliant stuff today. I was wondering where people can check out your content, pretty much your social profiles, anywhere we can connect with you.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested, especially probably in master your mindset, might be a good one. So just go to www.acecoach.com.au. .au for Australia. So that's the website there, and you'll see one of the courses, Master Your Mindset. It's got a number of visualizations, between point routines, all that kind of, a lot of what we spoke about today, anchoring, affirmation ideas. So please check that out. And just, if anyone was interested in taking a deeper dive and personalizing visualizations, just shoot me an email. info@emmadoyle.com.au is my email. info@emmadoyle, EMMADOYLE.com, and then .au for good old Australia on the end there. So
good old Australia. I had Mark on the podcast a couple of weeks ago as well, and another
great guy
from Australia. You guys,
I grew up with him.
A lot of good experts down there.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and Australia certainly has produced a number of pretty good coaches over the years, and I'm just fortunate to continue to learn and grow. And I certainly I didn't play necessarily at the highest level, but certainly have coached at that, some of the top accolades of my sport, and just really humble and appreciate every opportunity I can to unleash tennis potential in humans. So thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, and thanks for everyone's insights and comments and questions. Some tricky ones there, some curveballs. I love a curveball question, and I always get that from you.
Yeah, my audience, they get it from me. I think I try to ask some interesting ones. And actually, before I let you go, if you don't mind, just one classic question from me, Emma. And by the way, everybody, please check out acecoach.com.au. And also, if you'd like to email Emma, you've got info@emmadoyle.com.au, and we'll have all the links on the show notes page as well. But Emma, before I let you go, what is one key tip that you can give our audience to help them improve their tennis games? If you could pick one out of the millions you have.
Oh, well, you know what, to be honest, it's reinforcing the importance of anchoring and affirmations.
Yeah. Like
just get in state. Just, again, in tennis, the reason why things go wrong is we're always thinking too much in the past or too much in the future. 4-1, we've already won the set 6-1, and the next thing you know, it's 4-all. So being able to play in the moment, just accept, the more, you can practice acceptance and embrace, don't try and block pressure. Don't try and say, I'm not nervous. Just embrace feelings, embrace how much someone annoys you. Have a look at maybe what's a lesson in that for you about why they annoy you. So accept, embrace, and then fire off that anchor and affirmation so that you can play in state. The more you can just be in the moment, you'll enjoy it more and you'll win more. That's the most ironical part. And that I'm telling you right now is my top piece of advice from a beginner right through to the highest level of player I'm working with at the moment. So just it affects all of us. Pressure affects all of us in every aspect of our life. And I just think the more that we can, really stay in the moment, and by having practical strategies. So self-awareness, practical strategies equals usually a winning game plan. So that would be it.
Awesome. Well, Emma, thanks for your time. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, you just put out great quality content all the time, and your passion for the game is very evident. And I was cycling through all the great comments that we got about the episode. And I just want to thank you and acknowledge the great work that you're doing for the sport and continue to do for the sport. And also thank you to everybody who tuned in today, whether you're listening through the audio podcast or live right here or on YouTube afterwards. So Emma, thanks so much for coming on and really appreciate it. And everybody should go check out your stuff. So thank you, Emma.
Thank you. And please, everyone, take action. Just hopefully one thing resonated. We spoke across multiple sort of levels and lots of practical strategies, but just take one and add it into your playing toolkit or your coaching toolkit, your parenting toolkit, and please take action on it. So I always say the ball is always in your court. So, and thank you, Meherban, for everything that you do in our industry as well, pushing the game forward, especially during this time where we all need to be hearing positive messages of inspiration and how we can all get back to our new normal and get back out on court. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. All the best to you and all the best to everyone, and stay safe and be healthy. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed that interview with Coach Emma Doyle. Emma, it was always a pleasure, as I mentioned to you after we recorded. It was really great talking to you, and thank you for spending a significant amount of your day to share your knowledge with us on how we can unleash our true tennis potential. It was really a lot of fun, and I appreciate you all listening, and I also would really appreciate it if you all would leave a review for the Tennis Files podcast, and you can do that on Apple Podcasts primarily, or really on any other podcast app that you use to listen to the show, and it would really be helpful in bringing more visibility to the show by just pushing it a bit higher up the rankings and so forth, which helps spread it to everybody. So would really appreciate that. And of course, I welcome all constructive criticism. And, the goal is to really just keep improving upon the quality and depth of the content so that it can help you and also even help me when I re-listen to these episodes, as I've been trying to do. It's funny, I've done hundreds of interviews, and I haven't really had, the time that I'd like to actually review them as much as I would want to, just because of obviously my constant, efforts to make new content, and also, full-time job and all that, other obligations, trying to play tennis when I can. Speaking of which, I hope that you all are staying safe and following safety protocols. In particular, the ITF and USTA have some really great suggestions, strong suggestions on how to best conduct yourself and be considerate of others. I know we all have varying degrees of what we think is the correct way to go about the current pandemic, but, I like to stay on the safe side. So definitely check those out. And of course, I will be leaving, or already have the links, all the links that we mentioned today on the show notes page. Shout out to Emma for sending them to me, so that I don't have to hunt them all down. It's always helpful for me and my team. Also would love to leave you with a quote, as I often like to do at the end of the show. And this one is by Dan Millman. And Dan said, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." I really love that. It's really resonates, with me, and I'm sure many of you. We're not what we are from the past. We can always just put that to the side. Obviously, you can learn from it, but for example, if you have traditionally been, let's say, lazy and made bad choices, you don't have to just connect that to yourself forever. You can just focus on, today is a new day. I'm going to become a new person, and with very focused and consistent effort, gradually, as Emma has said on the podcast, you can change yourself and become a new person and build new habits and succeed. So it's not easy, but it bears many great fruits. Also, just non-related aside, I actually got a new audio interface. And so I'm actually recording this episode via, higher quality, sound interface. So, an XLR also connection. So just curious if you hear a difference in the quality of sound. I know we're not audio experts or engineers, but if you do recognize a difference, just let me know. Probably is more likely if you're listening via headphones rather than just a speaker, but I'd be curious. So either way, email me at meherban@tennisfiles.com. That's MEHRBAN @tennisfiles.com. Really enjoyed this episode. Can't wait to go back and listen to it and many of the others. And I encourage you all to just have a pen and paper or Google Docs open and take some notes and highlight points that you feel would really help your game, and then block out some time on your calendar to work on it. So once again, best wishes to you all. Please stay safe. And I am definitely excited to bring you new content, whether that's on the podcast, on the blog, on the YouTube channel. I've got a new membership site coming. Well, actually, it's already live, but details on that coming. Probably going to reopen the summit at some point soon. So yeah, I will keep you updated on all these things. And if you want to stay updated, the best way to do that is to go to tennisfiles.com, and you will see where you can actually grab a free ebook, The Building Blocks of Tennis Success. And when you do that, as a thanks for joining my email list, you get that free ebook, but then you also will get communications from me, which include the latest updates of when certain things are launching, whether that's content or other products or videos. So, like 99% of that is all free. So yeah, looking forward to communicate with you through that medium of email as well, if you're interested. So in any case, please be well, please be safe. Please talk to your loved ones and tell them how much you love them. And if you can, play some tennis safely. All right, y'all. I'll see you soon, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Tennis Files podcast. This is Meherban Aranshad signing out.